To the max, baby.
Welcome to the Max podcast, where we have real talk about educational transformation. I'm super excited to be here today with Superintendent Tricia McManus, who's the superintendent of Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. I'm grateful that she's here. We're going to talk about a few things and have a real calm time because she's had an extremely busy day. Superintendent McManus, tell us a little bit about yourself and your pathway to get to the superintendency.
Okay. Well, first of all, Dr. Maxwell, thanks for inviting me to be on the podcast. This is exciting for me. And so my path to the superintendency is probably a little bit unusual because I really did not, I mean, my sight wasn't set on that, to be honest with you. So I have been an educator for, this is 35 years now. And I thought when I was, I loved being a teacher. I loved being a principal. I loved being a director and an assistant superintendent of leadership development. And so all the work that I've ever done, I've loved it. I've loved it, loved it, loved it. And early in my career, I thought I would like to be a superintendent one day. But as time went on, I felt that the work I was doing was such important work. And I loved it so much that I really had gotten to a point that I was like, I don't really need to do that. It wasn't something that I just needed to do. I just wanted to keep doing what I was doing, which was having a huge impact, developing future leaders, doing school transformation work. I was doing work that I loved. But someone, the former superintendent in Winston was, I met her through the Broad Academy, which was a superintendent academy. And I did that academy because I had heard so much about it and the learning was going to make me better in my current role. And so I met her. And when her deputy superintendent job came open here, she called and asked if I would be interested in coming to Winston to do the deputy job. Lo and behold, after I came in June of 2020, so it was in October, late October, she decided to leave, to resign. So
wasn't this like pandemic?
Yes, yeah, June 2020. It was the pandemic time.
So you decided to leap into this role.
I did, but
during the pandemic,
I had already made the decision to come before the pandemic happened. In December, I was appointed here in December, but I wanted to finish off the school year.
Yes.
In this district I was in because I had a commitment, and so she agreed that you can come in at the end of the school year. Well, it was in March that people went home at that point.
Right.
And so starting in June of 2020 was an interesting time to start.
It was.
And
I commend you.
It was interesting. But at the end of the day, when she left, I just felt like it was, a greater calling that I was here. And the board asked if I would step in as interim. And after a few months, they said, would you stay as the superintendent? And now we're 4.5 years later. We're 5 years later, pretty much.
Oh, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So it was not a path like I need to be a superintendent. Right. I'm on this career path. I need to do it. I have been in my job 30 years as an educator before I walked into the superintendency.
That's a lot of experience starting into this role. And that's why you do it with such ease and grace.
Well, thank you.
Like you do an amazing job.
Thank you.
And you do a very good job not showing that you're flustered or overwhelmed, like you smile through it. And I think that's phenomenal.
Thank you. I thank you. Thank you. I thank my parents for some of that because I think it's just, staying calm under pressure. I think that's something you kind of learn over time.
Over time. I'm still working on that. But I'm working on that one.
I think you're great at it.
So something light before we get into more stuff around education. If you could spend 24 hours with any celebrity, who would it be and why?
Gosh. Any celebrity, who would it be and why? And these are the questions that are, believe it, harder than the questions that are the work questions.
Exactly.
All right. Gosh, there's so many celebrities that I love. So let me think. And there would be different reasons for me wanting to be with different celebrities.
Would you like to give two?
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. So just because there's this will be one because I loved this show on it wasn't on Netflix. I can't remember what, but I loved Outlander. So for my just fun one to spend time like learning more about it would be oh gosh, what is his name? There was a star of Outlander.
I have to know.
His character name is Jamie Fraser, and he's Jamie Fraser in Scotland. My husband probably doesn't want me saying this one.
I mean, you're like Jamie Fraser.
That's his acting name. I can't remember his real life
so
name.
Captivated by him as an actor, you don't even know his real name. So we're gonna research it.
It's the character. It is the character, but I just think it's. He also did a story called Men in Kilts, which was interesting. So it would be just neat to speak to him about his characters and acting and all that. That's the fun one. But probably for something deeper and more, I'm trying to think of someone that would fascinate me. Sorry, this is the kind of question that should be easier for me.
Well, I don't because when you don't spend time, it's fun.
Exactly.
It's hard to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have so many fans. Could I do, instead of a celebrity,
you're changing the rules of my podcast?
Yeah.
My game?
Can I do a former president that I'd like to spend time with? Because he's a celebrity.
He's definitely a celebrity.
It would be President Obama.
Oh, that's a good one.
I'd like to
I met him. I have a picture with him.
Oh, do?
He shook my hand. I have a photograph, and I'm showing like my.
Are you serious?
Oh yes.
I'd love to spend. I would love to spend time with him because I feel when you talk about like the grace under pressure stuff, when you talk about his commitment, and I mean, he through his tenure, from some people, but just got a lot of pushback, but he always handled that. I mean, so diplomatically with grace, and I think he sets a good example for leaders.
Yes.
And so he is a celebrity. He's not like a celebrity like a Denzel Washington,
exactly.
But he is a celebrity as a former president. And I think his leadership style and even his the way his family, like, they really stay like above board on everything. You know what I mean? They still
go what we do.
We go high. We go high. And so I just feel like the way that their family stayed, like, what is that family value system? I really respect that. And so he's just a good role model, and I feel like I would like to spend time with him.
I think that's beautiful. Family over everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
One person for me, I think, is such a mastermind and a genius, but she seems very calm, is Oprah Winfrey.
Oh my gosh.
Like, I think, the way that she has influence and she works to positively impact change.
Yes.
And to elevate women and to grow people. I really am impressed by that. And since I'm trying something new, I think she's really somebody amazing to kind of study, because even though she started as a news media person, she's transitioned into so many things, and you can look to see her impact.
So
that
Oprah Winfrey would have been a great choice.
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for her and just what she's done and how she gives back.
Yes.
And
I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, even though you ventured into this part of your life 30 years after having an amazing career, what brings you the greatest joy about the current role that you sit in?
Oh my goodness. I will always say it's seeing students become all that they can become and just seeing them succeed. And so, spending time in schools is what brings me the greatest joy. Getting to know our students, as a superintendent of a district of, 50,000 plus students, I never thought that I could actually develop relationships. When you're a principal like you are, you get to know kids. That's why I love being a principal. You are there daily for kids, and you get to know them, and I loved that. And so as a superintendent, the higher you would move up in the system, you start to pull away from that. Mm-hmm. And I think that robs you of that joy sometimes of why you went into education. And so being with kids and getting to know kids is I love. And I will just tell you this. Today I was at the Special Olympics.
Yes.
And there was a student that I met there 3 years ago that was interacting with a young student with Down syndrome. And the way she was interacting with him and mentoring and supporting him was beautiful. And so I asked her name and what high school she went to. And I actually, because I have a daughter with Down syndrome, said, would you ever think about being like a buddy to an adult person with Down syndrome and take them places and all that? And she said, yes. I took her number to call her mom and see, but I never followed up on that. But 3 years later, I see her there today. Yeah. She is a senior. Actually, it might've been 2 years ago because she was a sophomore. Now she's a senior. Okay. And she was in scrubs today, and she goes 2 periods a day because she has so many all her credits. She goes 2 periods a day in actual shadows in doctor's offices because she's going into pre-med.
Okay.
We have other students that I've gotten to know from junior JROTC who have gone on, and they are One's at Army, one's at Navy. They send me a picture every year because they come together at that game.
Yeah.
So like getting to know our kids and seeing their accomplishments brings me the greatest joy. And we've got incredible kids in our school district. And to see what they can become and how they're going to change the world for the better, that excites me and motivates me on a daily basis.
I think you used a beautiful word, joy. And I think that often in our current state of affairs in the world, when COVID was going on, people thought educators were the most amazing people in the world. And now 5 years later, schools are horrible. We don't serve children. We need to dismantle public education.
I know.
It's really scary, but people forget about the joy that it brings. And then think about how we're changing the world by supporting our future leaders.
Absolutely.
And so that is a huge word that is impactful, joy.
Yes.
And that's really sweet.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about the affairs, what are you most concerned about with everything that's going on in our government system and them talking about possibly dismantling public education? Yeah. I think you're probably going to say you're most concerned about children, but.
Well, I am. I mean, there's, change. I'm used to, always under new leadership, you're going to get some change. It has happened. I mean, from the time I've been in education, and now it's 35 years, you're going to have change. But the change needs to stay centered on our students. And I think what concerns me the most is honestly a narrative that is an untrue narrative about public education. Because, and the people that paint the narrative, the untruths, don't spend that much time in schools, and some don't spend any time.
And some may have never gone to public education.
Correct.
Or had the experience of it to even be able to speak.
Exactly. And so they think that all these other options are better, but they don't really know what's happening. And I recently started, this See for Yourself, inviting community members. We did one at Carver.
Yes.
And inviting community members in, and anybody that was there was like, wow, look at all that's going on for kids in Carver. And kids are the ones taking the adults around to show them. Tomorrow will be in my 8th or 9th one of those this year. And I'm doing that because I'm frankly really tired of the narrative, and I don't want to get defensive about it. But at the end of the day, because things happen when you have 50,000 children and when you have 7,000 employees.
Yes.
Things happen.
Things happen when you're just in your home.
Right.
With you and just your.
Yeah, things happen. And the fact that the things that happen can then paint the picture because of social media today that, oh my gosh, it's chaos or they're unsafe and all that. But if you ask the kids, they don't feel unsafe. And if you go spend time in the schools, you can see the learning that's happening. That's right. There's always room for improvement. But at the end of the day, so my biggest concern is that people are actually buying into that and then figuring out how to take money away from kids that potentially need it the most and give it to people that actually have the means to have an education. And so I'm concerned about that. The reason I'm concerned about the dismantling of the federal government is because when you're going to give federal funds out to districts and states, if there is no guidance or expectation around accountability, every state does what they want to do. And that concerns me. And not that I'm saying that, that there aren't good things that states can do, but if you are not held to a certain standard, everybody talks about us with accountability. Right. What's the accountability for state by state to use those funds for what they're intended for, which Title I funds are intended to serve your most disadvantaged students and schools. So there's a lot of concerns I have right now.
But I think you hit no. Yeah. And I guess what you're doing with the See for Yourself is about advocacy and education.
Absolutely.
So what can people do that want to advocate? Like I know you as a superintendent are saying, let me bring these people into my school so they can see the positive things that are happening. But what is something that a regular Joe Blow or a community member, a faith-based partner, what is something that people can do to positively advocate for schools? Because there's so much negativity. Like everybody can go paint something negative. Yeah. But it's interesting to see that when one thing bad goes wrong or one thing bad happens, they don't say, oh, okay, but these 20 positive things happen. So let me tell them. Yes. So what can people do to help tell the true story like you're trying to do in your schools?
Yeah. I think we've got a lot of champions out there. We do. And unfortunately, the champions aren't always the most vocal. Like they work silently behind the scenes. And we have so many of those in Winston-Salem in Forsyth County. We've got so many community partners that are championing the work with us, that are behind the scenes, figuring out how they can support students, how can they partner with the school district. And so I feel like we've got to bring them together so that they understand the best way to advocate. Because every time I go speak at something, people say, what can we do? And I always say, we've got to kind of, organize so that we can, in masses, and strategize to advocate. And I think sometimes people think, oh, we'll just bombard people with email. That is not the best tactic, to be honest with you, because I think that when people get cut and paste emails, 500 of them in a row, you don't read them.
Right.
You don't read them. When you get authentic outreach, you pay more attention to that. And so I think it's building relationships with the people that are lawmakers, making sure that that they hear the voices of the people that are doing the work, and that we've got to counter the negative narrative that happens on social media. I will never understand why people spend all that time on social media.
Especially being negative.
I personally, spread joy. Like
Kindness.
life is, we only have a certain amount of time on this earth, right? We if we're lucky and we live to an old age, do you want to spend it like breaking down people, or do you want to spend it building up people?
That's right.
And I choose to spend it building up people.
I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I think you said some key points, because people think, let's everybody write a letter. Let's everybody do this. But if my mailbox is full with 1,000 or
You're not going to read
letters, I can't read that.
You can't read them.
But if we get together and collectively coordinate on how to be collaborative to make our voice louder, even though it may not be 500 letters, but it's louder than that.
Exactly.
Then that has a bigger impact.
Yep.
So teaching people how to advocate.
Absolutely.
And then something simple, if you see something negative, counteract it with something positive.
Exactly.
That may have happened.
Yeah.
Maybe you should reach out to the principal and call them and work through a solution. Because when this happened for me at my school, or this happened in that district, this is how they helped me problem solve.
Exactly.
Because nobody's perfect.
Yep. Right? Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. I love that. Good. Now, you do so much work for other people. What do you do for you? Because your job is not easy. You just walked out of a very heavy meeting. You're in the middle of trying to keep 50, 55, 60,000 people safe every day, keep schools open, pay the bills, and all you're hearing about is the dismantling, the cutting. Nobody's happy. How do you manage that, and what do you do for you?
I feel, first of all, I feel like all of that is noise and distraction, and all of that, if you allow that to overtake you, you're going to take your eye off the prize. And so the prize for me is all of our kids reading on grade level, all of our kids computing on grade level, all of our kids learning the durable skills and being able to show those, the skills in our portrait of a graduate at the highest level. So that's why we're here. All the other stuff is just such noise, and it's such a distraction. I sometimes feel it's a distraction tactic so that we take our eye off the prize.
Unlike that.
But I'll just
strategic about being distracted.
I think so. I think some of this is how do we, because to be honest with you, as people become focused on the wrong things, they take their eye off what is the most important. And so for me, one of the things that I do for myself is I very much try to stay centered on my why. And I try to stay focused on, okay, I might be upset for a moment on something, but I quickly get back on track. And I've got a really great family support system. So taking care of myself means also my family has, I've got, they keep me, they fill my cup, and hopefully I'm filling their cup. And my husband is a great listener and a great coach. He I'll call him sometimes and he'll be like, walk me off the ledge. And I'll do the same for him. We're both in education. So, but anyway, so that, other things I do to take care of myself. I love going, I love
massages. Do you?
No, I should jog. I should jog.
You go to
I
the gym, do you eat cheesecake? Like, what do you just do?
So I'll tell you. So, and don't look at my nails right now, because I just peeled them all off, right? So I did that myself.
That's not good to peel them off.
I know, but I missed my appointment. and it had gotten to where the thing was like right there.
Oh, I'm glad you peeled.
So I like, and this was like Monday night. I might peel them off. Anyway, so long story. I've got an appointment this weekend.
Yay.
Thank God. So they won't look like that.
Wonderful.
But anyway, so yes, I will go get manicures and pedicures.
Awesome.
I love to walk. And so, and I live
great.
in Winston-Salem. I live close to the downtown area.
Yes.
And walking to a lot of stuff. I also love, we have got so many amazing restaurants in our city. And I love, they're not chain restaurants, no offense to any chain owners, but they're local, authentic restaurants. Okay. And I love.
And tell me some.
Oh my gosh, I love them.
Okay.
I like to go out to eat. Oh. I do like to eat.
Oh, I love to eat too. Eating is necessary. Right? Eating is necessary.
But the walking is self-care. You know, just that's pretty much how I take care of self. I don't do a lot of massages and stuff like that. A lot of people do that. They might be great. I just need to I've gone to very few in my life.
Well, that's fine, but you do what works for you.
Right. Exactly.
So we all have to find our joy. But one thing you said that stood out to me a few weeks back, I was with Latrell and she did a session on SEL. And she talked about recovering quickly. And that's what you said. I might get down or get upset about something, but I don't stay there.
Yes.
Because the way you think about it is they're doing that to throw me off my course and not keep kids first.
Exactly.
And that's very intentional, the way that you also think about it.
Yes.
That's phenomenal.
Yes.
Thank you.
And you gotta have your own mechanisms for quickly recovering. And I will say, and I like the recovering because I didn't say that, but it is a recovery and sometimes I'll get mad in the moment. I might use a few choice words every now and then, but I do that.
I'm working on that.
I do that. I don't do that around people, but I will do that.
I do.
And then I move on and I'm good the next minute. Yeah. I'm like, done, good the next minute.
Maybe not the next minute for me. Maybe about 30, 45, 60.
Right. And I don't, you know what else is very important to me? I do not hold grudges. And so I think that helps too. Like if something happens between us, I want to get it right. And I want to move on. And there are people that can be really ugly, but I still look at them the next day as, and I don't mean ugly in their appearance. I mean, ugly in how they act.
Their behavior.
Oh, and the next day I can still be okay. Like this is a new day. For me, every day is a new day. That's how I look at kids too. Tomorrow's a new day. You might have messed up today. Tomorrow's a new day. And you can show up any way you choose to. And yeah.
Well, that's that depersonalization. So, yes. I mean, I think that all of the things that we're spending a lot of time on in schools and teaching our students are things that you're putting into practice through that social emotional, that restorative practice.
Yes.
And we just had sessions about all of those things. I am also a person, I may be very emotional about it, but once I'm over it, I'm over it. And I see you like, hey, how you doing?
Yes.
Like, okay, let's go on to the next thing.
Yes, exactly.
Because what I've realized is when I'm holding on to it, it's not hurting you. It's hurting me.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is a very good point.
It's not hurting you.
Very good point.
Mm-hmm. I like it. Well, we've talked about quite a few things. And you seem like you could do this job for the next forever. So I think that is great. But you're not going to do it forever, right? So how are you building? It's Women's History Month, right? So let's talk about how are you building and sowing into the next generation of women or leaders? How are you doing that?
I will tell you, I have hired on my team some incredible women leaders. And so giving people the opportunity, I think is one thing. And then giving them freedom to do work is really important. I am not a micromanager. And so I think that when you, I mean, sometimes you've got to micromanage a few things. Like right now with my conversation around finances and budget, like sometimes you've got to tighten up and it might feel micromanaging. But in general, I try to hire people that show great leadership and then open the door for them to lead and not get in the way. Because sometimes leaders can get in the way of a leader leading. And so I get excited by people's accomplishments and celebrations, and I try to share that and celebrate that out. And so I think it's about, giving people opportunities to lead and then opening the door for them to do that, and then celebrating all their accomplishments and making sure that they get the credit they deserve for the great things they do. It is very important to me if Thyais Maxwell is on my team and Thyais Maxwell did something and it's made the district look good and I'm up there as a superintendent sharing it, I am going to say, Thyais Maxwell did this. And that is very important to me. I'm not going to stand up there and just, and take, by nature of everything, you take the credit, you take the blame as a leader of the system, and I'll take the blame every time, but the credit, I need to give it to the people that actually were doing that work.
So that is not easy for a lot of people to do. So that shows a lot about your authenticity and your comfortability in who you are as a leader, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with passing the credit or sharing the light.
Yeah.
I told Sean Hawley in her session that there's enough sun for everybody to get.
There
sun,
is.
right? And so people find it hard to believe that you really want them to just be successful and I really want to just grow you.
Yes.
So, but how do you teach that to other people? Because everyone does not have your same zeal, zest, or passion for people as you do.
So how do you teach that to other people? I think some of the belief in people and wanting people to achieve all they can, some of that's innate. Like I think that, but I also think that some of it is that when you're leading because you want to make a difference, but you're not leading because you care more about the position, being in a position, I think it's a natural thing. And how do you teach that? So for me, the title of superintendent, I know that's an important job. I understand that. And so I'm not trying to downplay that, but I don't feel like my position should get me the closest parking spot or my position should get me the free pass to, I believe that I should be cleaning up after the meeting just like everybody else. I believe I need to park wherever the parking spot's open. Like there are things that I believe about leadership. Leaders eat last. I believe that. You also have to take care of yourself so you can lead. But that whole leaders eat last is important to me. How do you build that in other people? I think number one, you can't build that. You can build it, but when you select leaders, you've got to actually select on the characteristics and the competencies that you expect to see people do. Because I'm going to tell you right now, past performance predicts future success. I am not going to take someone that is, I can teach people to be an instructional leader.
Yes.
I can teach people how to build a positive, strong culture.
Yes.
I cannot change someone's belief about others or their belief. So you hire on that on the front end. I want leaders who believe that there should be no limits placed on what kids can achieve. I do not care what their IQ says, what their zip code says. I don't care. They all can achieve at the highest levels. They all can go to college, in my opinion. And so I need leaders that also believe that. I can't teach that. I can teach you to do stuff, but I cannot teach that. And so what I need to do is hire people that already exemplify that. And you do that by looking at past performance. And now once I know you already exemplify that, and now I got you on my team, we can achieve anything. I mean, we can achieve anything. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I love Lincoln on Leadership. That book.
I do too.
Talks a lot about getting in the trenches with your troops.
Yes.
Because it's easy for me to stand up top and tell you what to do. But think about how we're building relationship and community when I'm down in the trenches with you.
Exactly.
So that we can make it up together. And when we get to the top, we feel so much better because we earned this together as a team. That's phenomenal.
I love that book as well. And I love that part of it, the whole being in the trenches with your people. Because, when I was a principal, of course, people in districts, people always thought of the central, the ivory palace, sitting in your, that is not me. Mm-hmm. And I have tried very hard. The minute I left the principalship, I always said, no one's ever going to say, well, you get to take a leisurely lunch. Well, what are you now? You've gone to the easier job. No, and guess what? No one's ever said that because
and you're everywhere. I'm like,
it's important.
Weekend events and you're there, and I'm like,
yeah, it's
she doesn't sleep. I know she's exhausted.
a little bit.
You don't sleep often or much because you are literally not only in schools, but you make it a point to be in the community, regardless of what side of 52 it is on. And I commend
it's important. Thank you
greatly for that.
Thank you. I love it. That is part of the joy as well, being out in the trenches with people.
So safety of schools is a big thing.
Yes.
Safety around the world actually is a big thing. So how do you feel about SROs? I just met with Sheriff Kimbrough, and he said something that he feels SROs should be a part of the school fabric and the community, that we should have relation with them. And so I'm sure that's not evident everywhere because that's hard to do. Like, you're seen as the enforcer and not the relationship builder. So how do you feel about SROs in school? Because the media talks about mixed things, as well as metal detected, but safety is priority. So how do you feel about it?
So when I first came to the district, my first item for the board that I had to do, I was a deputy superintendent, and it was virtual. I think that was the meetings were, or it might have been one of the first face-to-faces. I can't remember. But anyway, I was bringing forth the SRO contract. And that night, people came up in the public comment, and there were many people that were anti-SROs in schools and all that. And the comment I made is that, police, yes, they're there for the safety, but they're there to protect our kids, and they're there to build relationships with kids and to just they can serve as mentors and role models. And so I see SROs. I've always seen SROs as part of the school fabric. I believe that, and I believe that they should spend the time out with the kids, building relationships while making sure, because the other part, I don't believe SROs are in there to keep people inside. Like, if we build the right culture, you prevent the inside issues. It's to protect our kids from what can come from the outside, and so into our schools. And so an SRO, I'm going to tell you right now, if somebody came into a school building and was dangerous, the first person I would want to see is the SRO.
Amen.
I mean, and so we need right. So
it needs to be first and foremost.
Right. And so I think the biggest thing is that discipline is for administrators. School safety is for SROs. And so when SROs get put into a position where they become disciplinarians, that is not fair to them. So I've worked for 4 years. I 100% am a proponent of having SROs in schools. I think when they are doing the work they should be doing, building relations with kids and keeping them safe, that's a beautiful thing. That's what should be happening.
And I believe it's a transference not only from the school building, but also into the community. Because they would see them as a resource and not someone that is going to be policing and treating them brutal.
Exactly.
And so it gives them also a different kind of conversation, right? So a redirection.
Yes. I know, I've seen many, many years SROs that have built incredible relationships with students. And in the high school that my daughter went to, they all loved the SRO. He was part of the school team. And so that's what I want SROs to be for our kids. It also, because they're also going to enforce the law, and it's good for kids to start to build those relationships early with police, because law enforcement should be a positive thing. They shouldn't be seen as they're going to be treating kids unfairly.
Exactly.
And that's why I think it's important that we don't put them in the place of becoming disciplinarians, that administrators do the discipline work.
That's right.
Because administrators also should have relationships with kids, but they also have to be the ones to say, celebrate when you've done something right, but I'm going to have to intervene when you've not done something right.
Exactly. That
should be the administrators. And the SRO gets involved in safety. And so I want SROs to be out, being able to go around the perimeter of the buildings, making sure that things are safe on the outside, making sure that when kids are transitioning, that our kids are safe.
That's right.
Period.
And that's not just in the building.
Not just in the building.
Outside the building, down the street, our entire community.
The entire community.
Because safety is key.
Absolutely.
Not just of the students, but every person that comes in.
Absolutely.
Well, you shared some positive information in a meeting earlier that discipline has decreased in multiple areas.
Yes.
What do you attribute that positive news? Because even though news, social media show that everybody's, gone crazy and everybody's horrible and all these bad things are happening, it is very evident that some things are going positive.
Yes.
And that discipline out of school as well as in school suspensions are decreasing.
Have gone down. I mean, and like for the people that say, oh, well, you're just not suspending, that's why your suspensions have gone down. No, that is not true. And so to see that less referrals, so less kids going to the office for referrals, and period shows that behavior is changing. The whole goal of the code is let's build relationships. Let's do all of our promotion and prevention strategies and our interventions to change the behaviors, to be skilled behaviors that get kids what they need, but in a positive, skilled way. And so that's what the code is. And so I'm not surprised that it's starting to get better, because anything you start is going to take a little bit of time. Yeah. And when the beginning, when, there's been a lot of assumptions made about it and a lot of finger pointing about it, but if we stay the course and we actually implement it as it is designed with fidelity, the code is about high accountability, high support for children. And it's not a loosey-goosey free-for-all. And what the thing is you've got to be just as diligent with the interventions. So if I have a child that is getting referred for discipline, that we put an intervention, what is going on with that child, and behavior is learned and behavior can be unlearned. And I've seen it. If like I can't, I really, it's very difficult for me to argue with people about behavior, because I have seen an entire school that was struggling with behavior turn around the behavior, not because they removed children, because the adults changed their practice.
That's the hardest part.
Yes.
Is the adult changing the practice. Yep. Because unfortunately, our children are a product of the environment.
It's learned behavior.
If they have not learned how to have emotional regulation,
right,
then we can't just expect that to happen. Right. But as adults, we've got to work on the depersonalization and to teach the strategies. You made it like this, but you don't respond this way.
Yes.
There's a way to respond. And we can do and even when we get it wrong, we have those restorative conversations to rebuild the relationship, and everybody hug and go out.
Exactly.
But it's harder for the adults, it seems. It is depersonalized.
It is.
And you have to do often that reset with them the same way you have to do the reset with the children.
Absolutely.
But our children come in with so much trauma and so many adverse childhood experiences that we have a lot of unlearning to do. And to replace those things, like you said, with positive coping strategies.
Absolutely. And it can be done. And I always say, how many kids does it take to actually change, because you've changed your behavior with them, to show you that to prove to you that it can be done. It should only take one, because it can happen for all of them. And I've seen it over and over. And I've seen children that had behavioral challenges, like through changes in adult behavior, change it all around.
Once they love you and they know you love them, they will do anything.
They'll do anything.
I am extremely excited to see that happening in the space that I serve.
And we're seeing it. We're seeing less. We are seeing less fighting. We're seeing less, and a lot of that too is it's not just the work of the behavior and the code. It's also the work of how do we make learning relevant in our classrooms for kids? Engaging. If I come to school every day and I don't feel connected at all,
and you're boring, and
I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna tune into something else. And so I think making learning relevant, I think as we think about high schools in the future, I would love all of our kids to end up, every kid in dual enrollment, so that they start to get into coursework that's going to be part of their future.
Yes.
They can graduate high school with an AA already.
Yes.
It'll put them on that college going path. Not that everybody has to go to college, but we shouldn't stifle that. We should open the door so that they can see that it is possible. I think a lot don't want to go because they don't know that they can.
They don't know that
they don't know that they can.
And they're worried about the cost.
Yeah, exactly.
And I tell them it's a cost benefit to whatever you do.
Absolutely.
Right? And so college can happen for you,
whether
you go to 2-year, 4-year trade school.
Yes.
But you have to have a plan, baby.
You have to have a plan.
So I know you can't see right now past tomorrow, or most of them right now past today.
Right.
Because you're living just for today.
Yeah.
But we need to see 3, 4, 5 years down the road what we can do.
Absolutely.
And I think once you believe in the kids, like you say, they begin to believe.
Yeah. And I've seen you doing that at Carver, by the way. I've seen you've really changed. Talk about women in leadership. You've changed so much as far as the belief kids have in themselves there, and you've opened so many doors from kids going to having the esports. Was it the national champion?
We won
the championship. Opening doors. When I go the debate team winning. You're breaking down the walls that are created. I love it. I love it.
I tell them all the time. Access, because you can't expect them to behave a way where they've never been exposed to those things. And so giving them access is critical.
I agree. Your team at the debate thing, at the government thing, they won the delegation of the whole convening, and it's just amazing. And
and that's because of love.
Yeah.
I truly love children. I'm passionate, like you say, about providing them access
Yes.
and hope in a future.
And you believe in them.
Yes.
And that's
We're
so
supposed to
much.
provide
Yeah.
pathways to prosperity.
Yep.
Not the prison to pipeline.
Right.
We need to be providing pathways to prosperity. And the only way to do that is through an education.
Yep.
So what legacy would you like to leave when you say, this has been amazing, I've served, and now I want to sit on the beach with my When people in 10, 20, 30 years say, Superintendent Tricia McManus was an amazing woman, and this is what I remember, what legacy do you want to leave? And that's something you might have to spend a moment on.
I know it. I honestly, I just want some of what I know can be accomplished will not have in my tenure. I'm just so I really believe all kids, at least 90%, because they're 95%. 5% of kids may have severe cognitive delays that may prevent this from happening. But I truly believe all kids can learn to read on grade level by the end of third grade, like 95% of them. And I wanted my legacy, part of my legacy, to be to kind of show all that is possible, because I actually really believe it can happen. I don't think in my tenure I will reach that goal, but if I create the foundation so that it will be reached, I just want every kid to graduate like ready for, and honestly, the other part of my legacy will be about inclusion. What I want my legacy to be is that she truly believed that every kid, every child can excel. Every one of them, if we create the right conditions for that to happen. And so we can't do that by separating kids all over the place. And so I want part of my legacy to be that that people understand the importance of inclusion, and that that we have to bring children together, and that is children of all learning abilities, and children of all races, and children of all income levels, and they need to be learning together. The only way we will change things that pass from generation to generation, the only way to actually have kids be accepting of all is to make sure that they are around all. And so
change that natured learning.
Exactly.
That is innate.
Exactly.
We need to change the natured learning.
Right. Because
exposure.
Right. Exposure. I mean, and I'll just, my personal story around that with Megan is, my daughter with Down syndrome, is that she was in a regular classroom in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. She was in the gen ed classroom, and because of that, her language developed better. Like, so we can't, if we take children that are nonverbal and we put them in classrooms where everyone is nonverbal,
they're not hearing. How
do you learn to speak? And so we've got to educate all kids together. We can't, even separating kids that we think are like AP and honors, and leaving kids out that actually could really excel there given the opportunity and access.
So they can rise.
Exactly. So and simply put, and this was a very long-winded to say, I want my legacy
just... The legacy is going to be long-winded. It might not just be a one answer.
I know. Well, I just want it to be that, I just want it to be this. She never wavered from her belief in kids. And she showed up every day fighting for that to happen, that belief that they all can excel when given the opportunity. And I'm just, and that I continue to fight for that, even through some very, a lot of criticism and a lot of doubt. And I, stay the course. I always say we got to stay the course, even with the code. We stay the course, because one day we will turn the corner, and people will see what can happen when you actually change your behavior as the adult.
That's wonderful.
So
that's a beautiful legacy. She never wavered from her belief in kids and showed up every day fighting for that to happen for them.
Yep.
That's beautiful. I'm going to type that up for you and put it in our phone.
That's it.
So you can have it. That's
it.
Well, in honor of Women's History Month, how dynamic is it that I am sitting with you? We get to have this amazing conversation, because people see you as the ivory tower person and don't realize that you're human too. And you get a lot of darts thrown at you every day, but I'm sure you don't get as much celebration. And so I celebrate you. I applaud you. And I'm grateful that you spent this time with me on To The Max podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. You could invite all these people and you let me come on. So thank you.
Oh, you're amazing. Happy Women's History Month.
Thank you, Thyais.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Max podcast. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and share it with a friend. I hope to see you again. Remember to go out and be great because you already are. One.